The first scream came at exactly 2:17 a.m. It wasn't loud. That was the worst part. It sounded trapped, like someone screaming into fabric. Thick, smothered, as if the walls themselves were holding a hand over a mouth. I woke up sitting straight in bed, heart already racing, as if my body had known before my mind did. The hotel was silent again. No footsteps. No doors opening. No shouting. Just the faint hum of the heater and the soft, dead sound of snow brushing against the window. I checked my phone. No notifications. No missed calls. The hallway camera feed on the cheap hotel TV showed nothing. Just a dim, red-tinted corridor and the blinking exit sign at the far end. Then something else happened. The Christmas music started playing. Not loud. Not cheerful. Just a warped instrumental version of Silent Night, drifting through the vents like breath through broken teeth. I stood slowly. That's when I noticed the smell. Pine. And something old beneath it. Dust. Rot. The faint metallic tang of something that had soaked into carpet long ago and never come out. The music stopped. A second later, there was a knock on my door. 3 taps. Careful. Polite. And from the other side, a woman whispered, "You opened it." I didn't sleep after the knock. I sat on the edge of the bed with my shoes still on, jacket zipped, lights burning too bright, waiting for something else to happen. Nothing did. That silence felt worse than the scream. It felt deliberate, like the hotel was holding its breath. By morning, I had convinced myself there was an explanation. Old buildings make noise. People wander drunk through hallways. Sound travels strangely through vents. Fear fills gaps when you're tired and alone. That's what I told myself as I stepped into the hallway. The carpet looked freshly vacuumed, but my eyes kept drifting to the end of the floor. To the door without a number. Room 426. One of the locks hung open, swaying slightly, as if it had been touched recently. No footprints. No scratches. Just that single word carved into the paint. "Thank you." I felt a sudden, irrational urge to apologize. Downstairs, the lobby was decorated for Christmas in the saddest way imaginable. A crooked, plastic tree. Half-lit string lights. Cardboard cutouts of snowmen taped to the walls, their edges peeling. The smell of burnt coffee hung in the air. The front desk clerk looked worse than he had the night before. His eyes were sunken. His hands shook as he poured himself another cup of coffee he didn't drink. "I heard something last night," I said carefully. His eyes flicked to the security cameras. Then back to me. "No, you didn't." I hesitated. There was music. And a woman. He stood up so fast his chair fell backward. "You didn't talk to anyone," he said. His voice cracked on the last word. I lowered my tone. "I just want to know what that room is." For a long moment, he stared at the floor, jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscle twitch. When he finally spoke, it was quieter. Resigned. "That room isn't on the map," he said. "It's not in the system. Guests don't get keys to it. Staff don't clean it. Then why is it there?" He laughed once. A short, hollow sound. "Because it won't leave." He reached under the counter and pulled out a folded document. Old paper, edges soft from being handled too many times. "Sign this." I skimmed the text. Legal language. Waivers. Agreement not to enter restricted areas, basements, storage rooms, sealed floors. I already signed. "Sign it again," he said. I signed. Only then did he meet my eyes. "People say the hotel is haunted," he said. "That's not true. Hauntings are leftovers. This thing, it's still happening." My skin prickled. "What thing?" He shook his head slowly. "You don't need to know." I should have checked out right then. Packed my bag, driven straight through the snowstorm, laughed about it later. Instead, curiosity crept in, quiet, patient, poisonous. The rest of the day passed in uneasy calm. Snow fell heavier, sealing the road. My phone lost signal. The hotel emptied out as other guests checked out early. By evening, I realized I was alone on the 4th floor. That's when the decorations changed. I hadn't noticed them being put up. They were just there. Fresh garlands along the hallway walls. Wreaths on doors that hadn't had them before. Red ribbons pinned neatly into the carpet at regular intervals, like markers. Room 426 was glowing faintly beneath its door. At dinner, the power flickered. Lights dimmed. Came back. The Christmas music began again at 1:58 a.m. This time, it wasn't drifting through the vents. It was coming from the hallway. I cracked my door open. The lights at the far end of the corridor were out, leaving the space in shadow. Only the exit sign glowed red, casting long, crooked shapes across the carpet. The music grew louder as I stepped out, each note slightly warped, as if the song was being remembered incorrectly. Then I heard voices. Not singing. Arguing. Whispered and frantic. "I told you not to lock it. She said it would be fine. It's too late now." My heart pounded as I followed the sound. Room 426 stood at the end of the hall. The locks were gone. The door was closed, painted a brighter white than the surrounding walls, decorated with a perfectly placed Christmas wreath. Pine needles littered the floor beneath it, fresh and green. I reached out without thinking. The door was warm. Not heated air warm. Body warm. Behind it something shifted. A voice spoke. Soft, familiar, impossible. "You can come in now." I pulled my hand back like I'd been burned. "That's not funny," I said to the empty hallway. Silence. Then the door creaked open by itself, just enough for warm light to spill out. I smelled pine, dust, and something faintly metallic. Inside I could see a Christmas tree. Tall. Perfect. And just beyond it, movement. Someone standing very still. Waiting. The music stopped. And from inside the room a woman whispered, close enough to feel in my bones. "We've been waiting for you." The door opened wider. And I stepped forward. I don't remember deciding to step inside. Later, when I tried to reconstruct that moment, my mind kept skipping like a damaged recording. 1 second I was standing in the hallway, heart slamming against my ribs, telling myself to back away. The next, my shoes were crossing the threshold, and the door was closing behind me with a soft, careful click. Not a slam, not a threat. A courtesy. The air inside the room was warmer than the hallway, but not comfortably so. It felt trapped, stale, as if it had been breathed too many times and never let out. The smell of pine was overwhelming, sharp enough to sting my eyes, layered with something older beneath it. Dust, dry wood, and that same faint metallic note I'd noticed before. The Christmas tree dominated the center of the room. It was impossibly tall, nearly brushing the ceiling, its branches thick and heavy with ornaments. Not cheap plastic ones like the rest of the hotel. These were old. Glass bulbs, hand-painted figurines, tarnished bells. Some of the ornaments reflected the room incorrectly, bending space so that the walls looked farther away than they should have been. I took a step back. The door didn't open. I turned the handle. It didn't budge. "No," I said quietly. That's not okay." The room answered with silence. Then the lights flickered. Not off, just dimmer, softer, like the room was settling into a mood. That's when I noticed the people. They stood around the edges of the room, spaced evenly, as if arranged for a photograph. Men and women, different ages, different clothes, winter coats, scarves, formal wear, a child-sized sweater hanging loosely on a two-still frame. 12 of them. None of them moved. Their eyes were open. Their mouths were slightly parted, frozen mid-expression, not quite fear, not quite surprise. Something worse. Recognition. I swallowed hard. "Hello," I said. My voice sounded wrong here. Flat, absorbed by the walls. One of the figures, a man near the window, twitched. Just a finger. Barely perceptible. I stepped back again, bumping into a small table behind me. It held a guest book, open to a page filled with cramped handwriting. I leaned closer. The same sentence was written over and over, in different inks, different styles. We didn't open it. A whisper brushed past my ear. "So you say." I spun around. The The woman stood near the tree now. She hadn't been there before. Her face was pale, almost colorless, like wax left too close to a flame. Her eyes were dark and too reflective. Her neck tilted slightly to one side, as if it had healed wrong. "You shouldn't be here," I said. She smiled. "That's what they all say," she replied. Her voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It filled the room anyway, sliding into corners, settling into my thoughts. "Who are you?" I asked. She glanced at the frozen people, then back at me. "Depends on the year." I felt a pressure behind my eyes, a dull ache building, as if something was gently but firmly pressing against my skull. "This room," she continued, "likes witnesses. It doesn't like being forgotten." "What happened here?" I demanded. Her smile widened. "Nothing," she said. "And everything." The lights flickered again. The figures around the room began to change. Slowly, subtly. A woman's shoulders slumped. A man's jaw trembled. The child-sized sweater shifted, as if something inside it was trying to breathe. "No," I whispered. They weren't frozen. They were waiting. Memories began to surface that weren't mine. A blackout. Laughter turning uneasy. Someone joking about locked doors. Hands pounding. Candles burning too low. A voice promising warmth. I staggered, clutching my head. "Stop," I said. The woman tilted her head. "We can't. It's Christmas." The ornaments on the tree began to sway, though there was no breeze. Their reflections changed, showing the room as it had been, filled with movement, color, life. Children running. Adults smiling. Music playing too loud. Then the doors locking. The smiles collapsing. The singing starting. "They thought it was part of the event," the woman said softly. "A surprise. A game." My stomach twisted. "They didn't open it," I said, recognizing the phrase now. "Someone locked them in." She nodded. "Yes." "Who?" Her gaze met mine. "You're asking the wrong question." The temperature dropped. The metallic smell sharpened. I realized then that the room wasn't just showing me memories. It was rehearsing. The figures began to whisper. Fragments. Overlapping. Panicked. "It won't open. I can't feel my hands. Why is it singing?" I backed toward the door, fumbling for the handle again. "Let me out," I said. The woman stepped closer. I noticed now that her feet didn't quite touch the floor. "Not yet," she replied. "We haven't finished." The tree lights pulsed faster. The walls seemed to stretch, the corners pulling away, the ceiling rising. The room was growing, or maybe I was shrinking. I heard footsteps outside. Real ones. Hope flared in my chest. "Help!" I shouted. The footsteps stopped. A familiar voice murmured through the door. The front desk clerk. "Don't answer it," he said quietly. "Please." "What?" I yelled back. "Open the door." Silence. Then, softer. I tried once. The woman sighed almost fondly. "He lasted longer than most," she said. The frozen figures began to turn toward me. Their mouths opened wider. The singing started. Not a song I recognized. Not words. Just a sound, low, layered, wrong, vibrating through the floor, the walls, my bones. The pressure in my head became unbearable. Images flooded me. Every Christmas the room woke up. Every year it knocked. Every year someone answered. Not always guests. Sometimes staff. Sometimes children. Sometimes people who just wanted to understand. The room didn't kill them. It kept them. As proof. The woman leaned close enough that I could feel the cold radiating off her skin. "You opened it," she whispered. "That makes you responsible." "I didn't," I choked. "It opened itself." Her smile vanished. For the first time she looked angry. "Then it chose you." The lights went out. In the dark, something tall shifted behind the tree. Something that blocked out the faint glow from the ornaments. Something that breathed. And in that breath, I understood the truth. The room wasn't haunted. It was hungry. And it had decided I belonged to it. The darkness didn't fall all at once. It seeped. The ornaments on the tree continued to glow, but their light no longer touched the corners of the room. Shadows pooled there instead, thick and layered, folding over one another like something alive learning how to stand. The singing stopped. That silence was worse. I heard breathing. Not mine. Slow, deep, measured, like something savoring the moment before being seen. "Don't look at it," the clerk's voice whispered from somewhere far away, as if traveling through water. "Whatever you do, don't." The lights flared. For half a second I saw everything clearly. The frozen people weren't standing anymore. They were leaning toward the center of the room, toward the chair. I hadn't noticed the chair before. It sat directly in front of the tree. Wooden, simple, old, its legs carved with tiny bells and holly leaves. Thick straps hung loosely from its arms, darkened with age. The woman stood beside it, her expression reverent now. "It's ready," she said. Behind the tree, something unfolded. It was tall, far too tall for the ceiling, yet it fit, bending where it needed to, folding itself politely into the space. Red and white fabric clung to its shape like a costume that had forgotten its purpose. Strips of fur hung from its shoulders, matted and gray. Its face was smooth, featureless, except for the mirror where a face should have been. I saw myself in it. Not as I was, but as I would be. Eyes sunken, mouth open, skin gray with waiting. "No," I whispered. The chair scraped forward on its own. The sound echoed. The clerk screamed. A real scream this time. The door burst open behind me, slamming into the wall. He stood there, eyes wild, holding something heavy in his hands, a crowbar. "I told you not to answer it," he shouted. The thing behind the tree tilted its head. The mirror face reflected the clerk now, and I watched his reflection age in seconds. His shoulders slumped. His hands trembled. His mouth opened as if to beg. The woman turned to him. "You already belong to us," she said gently. "You just haven't sat down yet." He lunged. The crowbar passed straight through her. She didn't react. The straps on the chair snapped tight. Around me. I hadn't felt myself sit. Panic hit all at once. Hot and blinding. Wait, please," I gasped, struggling. "I didn't mean to." The thing stepped forward. Each step made the room contract, walls breathing inward, ceiling lowering. The frozen figures began to cry. Thin, broken sounds leaking from mouths that hadn't moved in years. The clerk fell to his knees. "I locked it," he sobbed. "I locked it every year. I stayed. I listened. I didn't let anyone near it." The mirror turned toward him. The thing leaned down. Its voice came from everywhere at once. Layered, overlapping, warm and cold. "But you remembered us." The ornaments shattered. Glass rained down. The tree lights burst, plunging the room into a pulsing red glow. The straps tightened. Pain flared, not sharp but deep, crushing, as if the chair were pressing me into the moment itself, pinning me to Christmas after Christmas after Christmas. Images flooded my head. Every scream, every knock, every whisper through the door. I understood then. The room didn't need people to open it. It needed someone to stay aware. Witnesses fed it. Caretakers sustained it. Memory was the lock, and guilt was the key. The clerk screamed as something wrapped around his shoulders from the shadows, dragging him backward into the dark behind the tree. "No!" I shouted. The woman leaned close, her breath icy. "You can trade," she whispered. One voice for another. The straps loosened. Just a little. I saw my reflection in the mirror face again. This time it was smiling. The thing waited. Patient. Hungry. I understood the choice. And I screamed the only answer it would accept. They told me I was found just before sunrise. A maintenance worker on the early shift saw me first. I was sitting against the wall at the far end of the fourth-floor hallway, knees pulled to my chest, staring at a section of blank paint like it was a door that refused to open. I don't remember leaving the room. I don't remember walking out. I remember the chair loosening. I remember screaming until my throat tore itself raw. And I remember the mirror face smiling, not in triumph, but in recognition. The fourth floor was closed before noon. Police came, but not the kind that ask questions. They moved quietly, spoke in low voices, avoided the end of the hall. No report mentioned room 426. No report mentioned the clerk. When I asked about him, a woman in a gray coat paused too long before answering. "There's no record of anyone by that name," she said. Then, softer, "There hasn't been for years. They let me go that afternoon. No explanation. No follow-up. The lodge shut down 2 weeks later, officially due to structural concerns. By January, it was already being stripped. Decorations tossed into dumpsters, furniture hauled out, the past erased piece by piece. I went home. Life resumed around me like nothing had happened. But I didn't. Sleep came in fragments. When I closed my eyes, I smelled pine. Heard bells. Felt warmth pressing in from all sides, polite and patient. Mirrors unsettled me the most. My reflection sometimes lagged, blinking a second too late, smiling when I wasn't. I stopped celebrating Christmas. Not out of fear. Out of respect. Every December, at exactly 2:17 a.m., my phone rings. No number. No sound. Just breathing. Slow. Measured. Familiar. Sometimes, when I don't answer, the breathing moves closer, as if the call isn't coming from the phone at all. Last year, on Christmas Eve, I noticed something new. A wreath hanging on my bedroom door. I don't own one. Fresh pine needles littered the floor beneath it. I didn't touch it. I didn't open the door. I sat on my bed and waited for the knock that never came. That's the worst part. The room doesn't rush. It doesn't need to. It knows where I am. It knows I remember. And as long as someone remembers, as long as someone stays awake at 2:17 a.m., listening for music that shouldn't be playing, the room is never truly locked. And Christmas never really ends.